maybe you can start with a introduction of yourself, and then yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing people probably know who I am. Like,
You
I'm
know,
the,
I have a huge YouTube. No. Probably because we have a. I sent it in a lot of partners, Discord servers, this event. So we had like 100 new people in the last day in this Discord.
oh, right, okay. Well, my name's Kane, and I make philosophy videos on YouTube, and I also am the person who is king of this server. I have the crown, so that's who I am.
Yes.
I have the crown,
Um.
but I'm like the king of my country. I don't actually like do anything. Other people basically run the server, which I appreciate a lot. I have no clue how
Yes.
all of this has been set up. So, yeah.
Yes. Well, I am one of these minions of the great king. Um. Yes. No. I. My name is Benne. Um. I am probably a more realist. I have like a small YouTube channel called Bilosophy, which is just philosophy, but then um, yes, where I discuss Buddhism stuff and philosophy. The B is from Buddhism. I'm also Buddhist, and yeah, I wrote my thesis on moral realism. I was a convinced moral anti-realist for a while, partly under the influence of Dear King's videos. But yeah, then I saw my wrongs, and now I'm a more realist. And yeah, now we're gonna be talking about that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you'd said that you basically wanted to run your argument for moral realism by me and convince me to become a moral realist. That's the goal of this
Yes.
conversation, right? We're
Yes.
going to
True.
turn Kane into a moral realist.
Yes. And
Okay.
and we're not gonna stop till we read. No, I'm kidding. Um, um, no. Yes, we should mention my argument is going to be a variation of Hume's argument, Hume's moral ontological argument, which Kane B has a video on. Would recommend it highly if you want to watch it. And he also gives some of the criticisms why on why he did not yet why it wasn't convincing to him. Oh, we got chats here. Okay, this is super distracting. um, yes, it's being recorded. And you can see my profile for my philosophy YouTube channel. Okay, it's just philosophy on YouTube. Okay. Um. Okay. Yes. So see if you can watch the moral ontological art. Oh, what is happening? Oh my god. Um, um, See if you can watch the moral ontological argument on Kane V's channel. Okay. And my argument is going to be dealing with some of the criticisms that he gave. Yeah. Okay. So let's start. Are you ready to be convinced?
Sure, yeah. I'm
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay. Um, okay. So I think my argument is going to be appealing to the moral skeptic, just like um, humor tries to do, right? Humor tries to say this thing of, well, maybe you don't know whether, here's an example is torturing babies, right? Maybe you don't know whether torturing babies is morally wrong or bad. But the fact that um, it could be wrong is basically a reason to refrain from doing it. Because his idea is if moral realism is right, then torturing babies is wrong. but if moral realism is not correct, if moral anti-realism is correct, then like it kind of is like neutral. So it's like not torturing babies or refraining from torturing babies. Either is good or is neutral. Either is bad or is neutral. And then he says, well, this gives you a reason to do it, basically, to refrain from doing it. Because
I mean, can I just say I'm not sure I would
got,
agree that. So I
yeah,
think
it's
the way I would
you
prefer
got
to.
only
Hello.
it's only neutral. It seems like the internet is not working, huh?
Can you not hear me? Is there something going wrong here? Okay. Well, I guess it's just me for now then until he comes back. Uh, well, I'm not convinced so far. Um, I don't know if anybody else wants to try to convince me to become a moral realist. I don't know if he's. Oh, are you back? Everything
Okay,
okay?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm back. Did you catch any of that, or was that all? Um,
Well, I mean, I could hear you until you disappeared. Um,
okay, sure. Um, I'm thinking.
yeah. So I mean, I would just want to kind of clarify that I don't really think that we should attribute to the anti-realist the view that torturing babies is not wrong or is neutral, right? Like the claim
Okay.
is going to be that it's not stance independently wrong or it's not objectively
Yes.
wrong or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. That's maybe a good thing to clarify. But um, you also say that you have a stance independent reason to not torture babies because it could be stance independently wrong. Yes. Okay. What I want to do is introduce a new term because stance independence stances often include credence functions. So like which is also the case for Hume's argument, because you need to say that it is possible that moral realism is true for his argument to work. If you have like a zero credence in that moral realism is true, then there's no chance that it will be wrong that torturing babies. Yeah, that so what we could maybe do is introduce some jargon and say like you have stance independence reasons and you have desire independent reasons. And desire independent reasons are just stance independent reasons, but then they allow for dependence on credence function, basically. If that's okay, because I think this is also what Humer argues. Yeah, that's like small point. Okay, so I'm going to be arguing that there are desire independent reasons for a particular type of action. Okay, but so this is the argument. We have we're moral skeptics. We don't know what to do. One of the reasons we could be moral skeptics is because of the evolutionary debunking argument. We say like our intuition is no good guide to what do we have desire independent reasons to do, because like this kind of pulls the rug under Humer's argument, because Humer is basically going to say the chance that torturing babies, you have stance independent reasons, you have desire independent reasons to refrain from torturing babies is way, way, way higher than the chance that you have reason to torture babies. It's basically the idea that our moral intuitions must be roughly correct. He kind of deals with this in the paper as well. It's like, but I think he basically says like it's fine to rely on intuition. He is also more intuitionist, and people who accept the evolutionary debunking argument do not accept this. They say, well, we have no idea. It could be, and this is also what you bring up in your video. that the evolutionary debunking argument. Maybe we should. Okay, I'm just going to assume that you know what the evolutionary debunking argument is. Otherwise, Kane has a video on it. But basically, the upshot of the argument is that our moral intuitions are an unreliable guide to the objective moral facts. Okay. Now we have skepticism with regards to moral intuition. It could be, yeah, it's equal chance that torturing babies is bad, then it is good. Okay. What I want to say maybe is, what I mean here by moral realism is this view that there are objective properties of goodness and badness. That's what we want to be skeptical of. I'm not sure if you want to be skeptical of like this idea that we have reasons, because reasons is kind of like a maybe more internal thing. And I want to argue that we do have reasons to for certain actions, but even though if we don't know what is good and bad, basically what is objectively good and bad. Okay, so this is the argument. We're moral skeptics. We don't know what to do with our lives. Like what is stands, like what we have desired independent reason to do. But now there's one action which could give us knowledge of what to do and how to perform moral actions.
Can I just interrupt and ask? I mean, like, I don't have any problem figuring out what to do as a moral skeptic. So I mean, I'm just not. So
yes, I should. You of course have like prudential reasons that you use, or like other.
No, I don't take it that I have I mean, I would say that I'm just a skeptic about reasons in general. So
okay,
I wouldn't say that I have prudential reasons to do anything, but like I do loads of things, and I can think about and deliberate about what to do, and then I make a decision, right?
Yeah. Well, what do you mean by you're skeptical of whether you have all reasons? Like, would you say that if you are thirsty and you have a glass of water in front of you, that you have a reason, the first person reason to drink it, or?
Well, I might say that, but the thing is I have a lot of problems with the way that philosophers think about reason's language, and so if I'm thirsty and there's water in front of me, I might well say, "Oh, I have reason to drink that water." And if you ask me what that means, then I'm just going to cash that out like this. I'll just say, well, you know, I have a desire to drink some water.
Yeah.
You know, there's water in front of me. Drinking the water would satisfy that desire, and that's it. But but the thing is that we have to distinguish that from a kind of a sort of view where we think that reasons. So you might think that your reasons for action are determined by what your desires are. So you might say something like, well, you know, if you want X and performing action Y is a means to achieving X, and action Y does not frustrate any of your other desires, then you have a reason to do X. So the thought is that reasons would be given by your desires. Whereas my view, I think, would be more like a kind of just eliminativism about reasons. There's just desires and means of satisfying those desires. And it's not that your desires give you reasons for anything. Rather, reason's language is just this like useful tool for, you know, expressing certain claims about what my desires are. Or sometimes it might not even be my desires, right? Because I could use reason's language to talk about other things. I could use reason's language to talk about things like, I don't know, institutional roles and institutional obligations. So I might say that, you know, a doctor has a reason to refrain from performing CPR if the patient has a DNR order, something like that, right? And that might not have anything to do with the desires of the doctor.
Yeah.
But the sort of position I would want to take is I just don't believe that there are these sort of, you know, these like entities, these reasons. That I think this whole discourse is just like, yeah, I would want to take a more kind of pragmatic, I think, account of what's going on when we talk about reasons.
Yes.
Um, so
If I understand you correctly, that what you want to say is prudential reasons are not some separate entity, but completely reducible to desires.
well, I'm not sure it's a reductionism. I think it might just be a kind of eliminativism, but that probably depends on like how you. Well, the point, what I wouldn't want to do is I wouldn't want to commit myself to a desire reductionist theory of reasons, because there's going to be lots of
Okay.
contexts where we talk about reasons where that doesn't
Yeah, sure.
have anything obvious to do with people's desires, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, no, but I mean like prudential reasons.
Okay, sorry. Can I just? I'm looking at the chat, and maybe I shouldn't. So Duke has just asked, what was even distinguished just now? Few people think that reasons are this special platonic force. Seems like Kane just talked about a standard view, but pretended it's not a standard view. No, the kind of view about reasons that I hold is extremely unpopular. The, uh, the idea that that there's like this kind of special normative force to reasons is absolutely the standard view.
Hmm.
So I mean that's the view among meta ethicists at least.
Yeah. But if we talk about prudential reasons, maybe we have like non-prudential reasons but like if we talk about purely prudential reasons, you want to say those are reducible to desires. Is that the view you want to take?
What I would say is that um, I should stop reading the chat because I have a. I mean, maybe we should leave this until. So what I would say, if you ask me, like if I say I have reason to drink this water, and you ask me what I mean, then I might
Uh-huh.
well cash that out in terms of my desires. And if you want to call
Okay.
that a reductionist account, then go ahead. But that's quite
Okay.
different from saying that like all reasons are
Yeah.
reducible to desires,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's different from
Yes.
giving a desire reductionism as a theory of reasons.
Yes. Yes. And then I want to maybe what you think about this? Maybe we can say there are two types of reasons. We have first person and third person reasons. So if you are fully justified to think that the cup in front of you is water, then you have a first person reason to, if you are thirsty, to drink it, which is reducible to your desire to drink it. However, if this glass is actually poison,
So just to be
and you
clear,
have
when you say that I have a first person reason, all you're saying there is that is something like I have a desire to drink water, and drinking the water would satisfy the desire.
yeah,
Is that it?
yes,
Okay.
yes, um, and but you also have a third person reason, namely, um, if this glass is poison and you don't want to die, even though you have no idea that this glass is poison because you are fully justified in believing that it's not poison, then you have another type of reason to not drink it, which you don't have access to. Um, but
Wait a
there's
second.
some way.
Wait though. But so sorry. I thought we were saying the first person reason just amounts to this: that I desire to drink water. So I desire to satiate my thirst, and drinking the
Yes,
water would satiate my thirst, right?
yes,
But if we're imagining a scenario where drinking the water is actually just going to poison me, then
hmm
then it seems like I no longer have a reason in that sense. So I'm not sure what the
hmm
distinction is between
Well, the
the
first one
two.
would be you think or are fully justified to believe that drinking this water is going to quench your thirst, and you have a desire to quench your thirst,
Okay.
um, and it would be reducible to that. The second, third person desire is going to be you have a desire to not die, and drinking this water is going to kill you.
Okay, so in the first case, I'm just mistaken about what's going to satisfy those desires. In the
Yes,
second case, I'm right. Yeah. Okay.
yes, but like the second case, the difference is the first one is accessible to us, right? This third person reasons are the third type of reasons that we deliberate with, right? It's like um, because yeah, we operate upon our beliefs, right?
Yeah.
And the third person thing is like kind of like a kind of view of someone who might know the information or something like that, right?
Can I just clarify something as well? I
Sure.
really should stop doing this. Okay, so Duke has just accused me of the move of pretend I'm eliminating something and then reinvent it, almost as classic as pretend I'm eliminating something that was never there. Look, I don't care what you call me. I don't care. I'm calling myself an eliminativist because that's what other people call me. That's what all of these meta-ethicists who talk about reasons call me. So when I talk to other meta-ethicists and I say, hey, here's what I mean when I talk about reasons, they're all like, no, 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 that's not enough. Reasons have to be this more robust, like that this more they have this normative force, right? Like that. I'm just going by what they're saying. I'm like, well, I don't see any reason to believe in that stuff. So if that's what you mean by reasons, then I'm an eliminativist about that. But I don't care. Like, I'm happy to say that. Fine, yeah, there are reasons. If my position is that, like, if what I'm saying is enough for there to be reasons, then you go ahead. There are reasons all over the place. Have your reasons, right? Like, I don't really care. I'm just kind of going with what the sort of standard account in meta-ethics is, and then and then I'm thinking about what do other meta-ethicists say to me when I tell them what I mean. So yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So we have this person. This person has two types of reasons. The person who wants to drink water, but they're actually poisoning it. First person reason to drink it. A third person reason not to drink it. Both are completely reducible to their desires. Okay. You accept this, right? Then we can.
Sure. I mean, look, I'm
Okay.
perfectly happy to talk about desires, means of satisfying those desires, and then
Yeah.
sometimes when we try to satisfy our desires, we are mistaken about what would achieve that.
Yeah.
That's totally
Yes.
fine. Sure.
Okay. Sounds good. So then I want to kind of see if we can introduce these terms. What we're saying when we say I have a first person reason to drink water, kind of like another way of saying
Can,
this
can
is
I just ask actually, right? Like,
sure.
do we have to talk about reasons here? Can't we just talk
Yes.
about desires and like why are we introducing like first person reasons? All this, I mean, we can like if it's important to frame it that way,
Yes.
but like I've just said, okay, like I'm happy with desires, I'm happy with means of satisfying desires. I'll grant all of that, right?
Yes.
And and so do we have to like bring in these these terms that are just going to confuse me or like
Yes. I'm sorry. I'll there's not going to be much terminology anymore. But it is really important for the argument to distinguish between third person reasons and first person reasons.
Okay, okay,
And what do we mean by
but
that?
that distinction, just to be clear, is that so in the case of the first person reason, the idea is, well, I have a desire, and I'm like I so what's happening is that I could be mistaken about the means of satisfying it. Whereas in the case of the third person reason, we're just talking about what would in fact satisfy that desire,
Yes.
regardless of
Yes.
what I think
Yeah.
would satisfy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. These would be first person and third person prudential reasons, right?
Okay.
I want to argue for the existence of non-prudential reasons, right? Desire independent reasons, but
Ah,
that's what I want
okay.
to
So what
where I
does
want
that
to
mean?
go. Well, that's what I'm gonna argue for. Okay, to argue for this, I need you to there's another way to think about prudential reasons. This I think there's not like a logical. This is just we have subjective goodness. Subjective goodness is just the satisfaction of your um your desires, whatever kind of like feels subjectively good. Um,
And is
so we
this
can
sorry, is this just by definition?
yes.
Right, okay.
So what we can then say is um, we can say that first person prudential reasons are subjective estimations or expectations of us towards subjective goodness. We subjectively expect that drinking this glass of water is going to give us a satisfaction of our desires. And the other way to think about third-person reasons is there's an objective expectation, kind of like how there are maybe objective expectations when you have an atom that's going to decay or something like that. And there's an objective expectation that it's going to decay in the next minute or something.
Okay, so should I point out that I'm not really on board with the idea of objective probabilities. So
Okay.
is that, I don't know whether that's going to be a problem, but yeah.
How about it's actually fine. Are you on board with this idea that it's we actually don't need to have objective probabilities? Well, all we need is that what I mean by objectively expected is this idea of this would actually or would not actually satisfy one's desire. And if we just assume some kind of determinist universe, right? They're gonna say, well, every objective expectation is either going to be 0 or 1. Would that be better?
Well, I mean, look, if what we're saying is that when I'm thirsty, and I drink some water, so if I drink this water, then that's going to satisfy my thirst. If I drink, petrol, it's not going to satisfy my thirst.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. And there's some objective matter of this. We're assuming this is we can subjectively expect it to satisfy our thirst, and it could actually satisfy our thirst or not, which would be the third person first person reason distinction. Okay, so now we've got that. Okay, now I want to say that there are first person desire independent reasons. There's one action for which I think we have such reasons.
I can't hear you. Your volume is just gone. I don't know if it's just me, but I can't hear anything. Can anybody else hear Ben? Oh no, yeah. You nobody can hear you, Ben.
My headphone is crashing. Okay, wait, you can still hear me now, right? Okay.
I can hear you now, yeah.
Everything's good now.
Oh wait, no, you're totally yeah, you've gone again. It's I don't know, roboting. It's
No, I'm back. I'm back. Right?
Okay, yeah,
No?
you seem to be back, yeah.
Okay, good. Yes, my headphone is gonna crash every 45 minutes for 12 seconds, and then I'll be back. So yeah, I'll just make a symbol when it's happening. Okay. I hope it doesn't happen anymore. Okay. So we have there we are axiological. We are skeptics about morality. We don't know what is objectively good or bad. However, we recognize that such moral knowledge, might be possible. So we have kind of skepticism with regard to the possibility of moral knowledge as well. We say, even though we currently are morally ignorant, we could get such knowledge. Okay, that's where I want to argue for, is that we have a desire-independent first-person reason to get this knowledge. Okay.
And what's the desire-independent first-person reason?
Okay, well, it is... Okay, so what I want to cash it out is we have subjective goodness, what we just kind of talked about, right? We have subjectively expected subjective goodness and objectively expected subjective goodness. But now we can think about the subjectively expected objective goodness of our actions. This property exists whether or not there are more facts or not, right? So I could say I have a strong belief that I think that torturing babies is wrong. This means that I have a subjectively expected that torturing babies is subjectively expected objective badness, right? Because I believe that it's objectively bad to torture babies. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And if moral realism is true, and it would actually be objectively wrong to torture babies, then it would be objectively expected, objectively bad to torture babies. But we don't know where moral realism is true or not. We're skeptics. However, we want to say like, okay, now we're going to have some kind of reason structure. We have first person, like for this like subjectively expected objective goodness, we have going to be a very similar structure as with the subjective goodness. Let's say we are in a universe where moral realism is true, and it's wrong, objectively wrong, to torture babies. Then this means that we have a third person, desire independent reason to not torture babies. That still makes sense, right?
Sorry, what do we mean by? I don't know what we mean by third person desire independent reason here.
The idea is that there are objective moral facts because moral realism is true, right?
Okay.
And if something is objectively wrong, this means that we have a desire independent reason to not do it.
Okay. We're just taking, so that again, just by definition, that's just what we.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And similar as with subjective goodness.
But you should bear in mind that I don't know what that is, right? So so I agree, right? Like this is how a lot of realists will talk about what they're claiming. You know, they'll say there are these desire independent reasons. I don't know what those are. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to get on board at this point. Like I can just accept that as a definition.
Yes.
But I mean, you know, that's kind of why I'm like, well, all right, what do we mean by that?
Yes.
Maybe it doesn't matter at this point, but so, you know, one of the things that like it makes me more inclined to be an anti-realist is because I read what realists say about reasons, and I think, okay, that doesn't actually make any sense to me. And so I can't really get on board with the theory. I can't exactly accept a theory if I don't know what it's saying. And so that's kind of the problem we're running into here, right? If we're talking about these desire independent reasons, I'm going to need some account of what that's supposed to mean.
Yes. No, what I maybe this is a way that like this is how I understand them. We have this relation between prudential reasons and subjective goodness. Like we said, is that one has a first person prudential reason to drink the water is completely reducible to the subjective goodness one expects to receive from drinking the water, namely that one's desire for water will be quenched, and one's belief that drinking the water will quench the thirst, right? This is kind of what it means to be a reason. You're going to have this desire and this belief, right? Or with third person reasons, this desire and what would actually happen. And then we're going to like reduce that to that, right? And how I define subjective goodness was just the satisfaction of desire. Now, if we jump to objective goodness, we're gonna have very similar structure. It's gonna be something like, what is objectively expected, objectively good? It is reducible to objective goodness, right? Which would be a property of an action, and whether like doing that action would actually bring about that objective badness.
Wait, so when I talk about reasons in the case of something like drinking the water, so the count that I said is I'm like, okay, when I say I have a reason to drink water, like literally all I mean is just I have a desire to quench my thirst, and I think that drinking the water would quench my thirst. Like that's it.
Yes.
That's all I'm expressing. So we then say, well, so there's then something a bit strange to me about saying, well, there's these desire independent reasons, because the way that I'm understanding the term reason here is just like, at least in the context of drinking the water, is just, in terms of means of satisfying desires.
Yes.
Now, I can think of other ways that I would use the term reason. So, like I gave the example of the doctor, right? And so that maybe the doctor doesn't have any particular desires with respect to the patient, but like in his institution, given his institutional role as a doctor, I might say, oh, he has a reason to do this. So in that case, talk of reasons is just going to come down to some claim about the way that certain institutions are set up, the
Yeah.
normal roles that people play in those institutions.
Yeah.
That's a kind of desire independent reason. I don't think that's the sort of thing you have in mind.
No.
Right. So, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Sure.
Yeah.
What I think is, what this prudential reason follows from is our expectation of subjective goodness. Right? We expect this glass of water to quench our thirst, and quenching our thirst we like label as that's going to be subjectively good. Like this is what we believe. And I want to say something very similar to objective goodness. It's going to be what would be labeled objectively good, given that moral realism is true.
Okay, so
I
a
don't
moral
like.
realist
I
is
haven't.
gonna. Right.
I haven't said that these exist, right? I'm just like trying to give some kind of definition.
Okay, so a moral realist is going to claim that some actions are objectively good, some are objectively bad, or that there are some states of affairs that are objectively good and some states of affairs that are objectively bad.
Yeah.
And then the reason is so I have some sort of reason to. Wait, sorry. You're going to have to just take over because I'm just confused, to be honest.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's. I might not be explaining it as well as I can, but I'll try. I'll try to explain it. We have subjective goodness. Subjective goodness is just like what feels good, what we judge to be good in our experience, right? Like pain, we generally judge to be bad. Ice cream taste, we generally judge to be good. This is what I call subjective goodness. This subjective goodness is what creates prudential reasons. It creates this thing of, well.
Okay, I mean, that's what I would prefer to say something like that's what licensors talk of reasons or something like that.
Yes,
right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is important that yeah. Okay. In the first person case, that is our expectation that's gonna be subjectively good, right? Which license our talk about reasons. And in the third person case, it's gonna be what is objectively expected, or whether like it's actually gonna happen, right? Which licenses talk of reasons. Now, in a very similar way, given that moral realism is true, if we assume there are goodness and badness properties in the world, objectively good and badness properties, we can make a very like analogous reasoning. It's like, if this is the case, then similarly, we're going to have desired independent reasons that follow from those two cases, right? We're going to have.
What are they, though? What are they? What is that? Does it just mean
Um,
like so we can say certain things about what sorts of actions would best produce objectively good states and or objectively bad states?
yes, like this is going to be kind of the idea. It's going to be perfectly analogous to the subjective goodness
So we're just
things.
saying
Like,
that if I take it that state X is objectively good,
mhm,
then we're just saying, okay, well, that's that just licenses us to say something like, I have a reason to perform. So if I know that state X is objectively good and that action Y would produce state X,
yeah,
then I'm just going to say, okay, I have a reason to perform action Y.
yes,
Okay.
okay, good. That's kind of the definition, and it would be important to know that because it's based on your knowledge, right? Um, and knowledge implies truth, right? This is going to be you're going to have both the first person reason because this is going to be based on your credences, right? And a third person reason because you're right, right? Because you know, and knowledge implies truth. Um, yes, okay. Well, now I'm going to argue um, that we have first person desire independent reasons, um, even if moralism isn't true, because um, all we need for that, right, is not that moralism is true, but that we subjectively expect some action to have positive objective goodness, right? Which, like, moral realists, right, they have, like, people who believe in moral realism, no matter whether moral realism is true or not, have a certain first person desire independent reason to refrain from bringing about those states that they take to be morally wrong, right? And they will probably talk, yeah, they'll use that language as well, right? They will say, like, I accept myself to have a reason to not torture babies, or right? You want to accept that as well?
Well, I mean, look, if the claim is that moral realism is committed to the view that there are objectively good and objectively bad states of affairs, and then there are things
Yeah.
we can say about what will bring about those objectively good or objectively bad states of affairs, um, and then that's it. Like, so when I say, so if I'm talking to a moral realist and the moral realist says, well, I have reason to do to perform action Y, and then all they mean by that is that
Oh no,
state of affair
my
X
internet
is.
is.
I'm sorry. Are you hello? Is hello? Is there something? It seems.
I am. I am extremely hot, but I should probably turn off my camera because um, this. Otherwise, I'm going to be lagging again. Please, sorry, continue. Um,
Right. Okay. So I was just saying. Right, okay. So let's say I'm talking to a moral realist, and the moral realist says, okay, there's objectively good states of affairs. There are things that are objectively good, um, and then when I say I have a reason to perform a certain action, right? All I mean is that this action is likely to bring about these objectively good states of affairs. Okay,
mhm.
fine, yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, so now I want to say, like,
I
even
mean, obviously that's
morals.
only going to make sense as long as we're sort of presupposing, as long as we're
Yes,
looking at it from the point of view of the moral realist who
yes,
believes that there
yes,
are these objectively good states of affairs. Yeah.
yes. No, no, absolutely. But now I want to remove that assumption. Okay,
Okay.
so we're moral skeptics. We have no reason to suppose that bringing about any action has, like, a positive, subjectively expected objective goodness, right? We have as much justification to believe that, I don't know, torturing babies has negative objective goodness, right? Which would be badness, objective badness, or then we have reason to expect that it has objective goodness. Our moral intuitions are completely unreliable, so to speak. Okay. Now, I believe there's one action for which we do have positive, subjectively expected objective goodness. The action is to seek moral knowledge. Why is this? Why does this have subjectively expected objective goodness? Because positive objective goodness, not because itself has subjectively expected objective goodness, because we have no idea, right? Our moral intuitions are completely unreliable. But when we would have such knowledge, right, this would mean that upon having this knowledge, we would be able to start acting in line with the moral facts. I'm going to be needing some extra assumption here, is that once you acquire moral knowledge, right, that this means that you at least have some motivation, right, to start acting more in line with what the objective moral facts are than what they are not, in some sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't have that motivation, but
No,
okay.
sure.
Um, but sorry, so can I mean, look, maybe I'm misinterpreting something here, but it sounds like the
Sure.
claim being made is that let's say that I assume that I do not have that I just don't know whether there are any moral facts, or I don't know what the moral facts are, if there are any. So I don't have objective moral knowledge or knowledge of objective moral facts, right? So I'm starting from that assumption.
Yeah.
Well, if I grant that seeking objective moral knowledge would give me some chance of acquiring objective moral knowledge,
Yeah.
then it would maximize this subjectively expected objective goodness to seek objective moral knowledge.
Yes.
That's the claim.
Yes.
Okay.
But what do I need for this assumption, right? Which you seem to be saying this doesn't hold for me, which we could talk a little bit about. But
Well,
I need this assumption.
before we talk about that, I'm confused about what the sort of I mean, is that so? I don't know. Is that the conclusion? I'm just not sure what the force of that is supposed to be.
Well, I want to try to show the force of that in my argumentation, but in what's to come, right? But I do need you to accept that the maximization of subjectively expected goodness of a moral skeptic, right? Given that they would bring about would start acting in line once they have aligned with the objective moral facts, once they have acquired such knowledge, that seeking that knowledge, given those assumptions, maximizes subjectively expected objective goodness.
Right. So the assumption, so the subjectively expected objective goodness, even if I don't currently believe in objective goodness,
Yes.
my my subjectively expected objective goodness of seeking moral knowledge. Sorry, it's going to maximize subjectively expected objective goodness if I seek moral knowledge, because if I do get moral knowledge, then obviously I have, I've now got the objective goodness.
Yes.
This is kind of the idea, and then
Yes.
the assumption has to be that seeking moral knowledge. Well, there's more than no. I think there are a few other assumptions here, because you're going to also
Yes.
need the assumption that seeking objective moral knowledge is going to actually help you find objective moral knowledge, right?
Yes. Yes. I'm going to be needing the assumption that seeking objective moral knowledge increases your subjective chance, right? Because we're going to be talking about subjective expectation, right?
Okay.
So
yeah.
we're going then not seeking, right? Which is quite a plausible assumption. Generally,
I don't see why that's plausible.
Because generally we think that seeking something increases chance of finding it.
No, not. I don't agree with that. I mean, there are some specific cases where it does. If I.
What about knowledge?
if I, well, okay, I mean, so the sorts of cases where, um, you know, if I seek, so like if I'm seeking, like a film or something, like I've forgotten, the name of a film, and then I seek out,
Hmm.
like, what was the name of that movie? Yeah, then I expect that I guess I'm probably more likely to be successful at figuring out the name of that movie if I
Yeah.
actively seek it out. So that's a sort of
Yes.
case where, yeah, if there's something I want, then seeking it is going to help me get it. But
Yeah.
just in general, I don't think that's true. I mean, like you get things like the paradox of happiness, where if somebody
Yeah. I agree.
intentionally tries to seek happiness, that's actually going to interfere with their ability to acquire happiness. It's better to sort of
Yes.
do other things and try to get it indirectly. Or think about,
Yes.
you mentioned the Buddhism thing, right? So, I mean, think about something like a Kensho or an enlightenment experience.
Yeah.
Uh, if you seek out that sort of thing, that's pretty much going to guarantee that you don't find it. So,
Yes.
if I'm a moral skeptic, and I mean, like, okay, I am right. Like, I don't think there are objective moral facts, and the thing is, I'm not sure what the objective moral facts would be like if there were any. Like, I don't even know. It's not just that I don't think there are objective moral facts. It's that you know, I kind of struggle to even conceive of what they would be like. So to me,
Yeah.
it really isn't at all obvious that the moral facts, are they more like the kind of knowledge? So are the moral facts going to be more like the case where I was trying to figure out the name of that film, or are they going to be more like the case of happiness or the Ken show? I mean, I'm
Uh-huh.
not sure. And actually, I think that there are going to be some. There are going to be some. So I think that it's arguably a part of like ordinary moral thinking that that like that sort of seeking the moral facts might be misleading. So a sort of case for this would be, um, you know, uh, uh, think about something like, um, I think this case came from Michael Sloat. I might be wrong about that, but there's a
Okay.
philosopher who gives this nice case of, imagine that you're in hospital and
Hmm.
a friend comes to visit you, and
Yeah.
you ask the friend, like, well, why did you come? And then the friend says something like, well, because I realized that I was, I thought about how I should act, and I decided to act on a maxim that I could will as a rule for the kingdom of ends, or something like that. Or they say, well, I thought through these different options, and I saw that this particular action would maximize happiness. And so the point is that what you actually so the point is that the person who thinks in that kind of way, even though they are explicitly thinking about morality and they're trying to do the morally right thing, they've actually kind of failed to achieve a certain moral ideal. That the moral that the ideal moral person, it might well be somebody who actually isn't thinking about morality. And now I'm not saying that that's a view that I endorse. I'm just saying that that seems like a view that has reasonable plausibility. There have been very careful, sensitive thinkers who have defended that kind of view. So as somebody on the skeptical side, I'm just like, well, yeah, maybe. So I'm not sure I can get on board with this idea that seeking moral knowledge is actually going to be the what was it? Subjectively expected goodness maximizing strategy. Subjectively expected objective goodness. Yeah. So, oh, Benny has gone. It seems. Um, I wonder how much of that was just me rambling. At what point did he leave? Um, oh, hang on a minute. Um, invite to speak. Let's see. Hmm. Well, I guess. Oh, hang on a minute. There's some buttons here. Show requests. So Benny, I've invited him back. Um, Well, I don't know. What do I do here? Do I just sort of sit and wait for him to come back, or do I what do I just start talking to other people? Um, okay. I feel like the conversation with Benny was sort of unfinished, so I'm not sure if uh, if I should be. Aha!
Oh,
There you are.
right.
You
Okay,
have
okay. Now
returned.
I fixed the problem. Finally. Okay, I fixed the problem. It's not gonna happen anymore. I'm sorry. Um, wait, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. You were saying that what's basically happening is wait, give me 1 second. You can. Okay.
Everything still okay? um, well, Benny's here, but is apparently, I don't know. There's maybe still some other problem. Okay, let's see what people are saying um, on the chat. Okay, so it's what's this? Is there any way in which reasons have motivating force? If yes, what do they do? If no, why are they
Fucking hell,
sick?
this is
Oh,
fucking
Benny's
annoying.
back.
Oh my
Right,
god.
there we go.
I have no idea. Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Wait, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, what? I do. Okay, okay. I don't know. Okay, but now I got the problem fixed. Okay, I got the problem fixed. Give me for my
Sorry.
for my
I've
missteps.
got to respond to something while you fix that problem. Okay, Bob
Okay,
Celeste.
please.
If you accept I'm thirsty, I ought to drink water. No, I don't accept that. That's this whole thing about what I was saying earlier. I'm kind of more an eliminativist than a desire reductionist. So like a desire reductionist would say that, right? A desire reductionist would say that like yeah, there are things you ought to do. You ought to do what would satisfy your desires. I don't accept that. That's the claim that I don't accept, is that you ought to do what would satisfy your desires. So if I'm thirsty, I ought to. I mean, I might say that claim. Like, I might say, oh, yeah, if I'm thirsty, I ought to drink some water. But to me, all I'm expressing there is just that, okay, I have this desire, there's a particular way of satisfying that desire, and, that's what I'm going to do. That's all that means when I use that language. But I don't think that there's, you know, it's that's why I would say that what it seems to me that what I'm doing is eliminating the reason or eliminating the ought. So, you know, but again, that's
Yeah, I agree. But you would agree that yeah, okay, we talked about this. Okay, so you were
you're hand
arguing.
waving normativity, but desire is inherently normative in my view. Okay, like,
Okay, gain.
um,
Um,
yeah.
we were talking about
Just to be clear, I actually don't care if I'm if like normativity is just built into desire. That's fine. I mean, all right, then there's normativity. That's cool. I'm not bothered by that.
okay.
Yeah. So, but sorry, I'll start
Okay, no,
ignoring the
no,
chat again.
no, it's fine. It's fine. It's good to have some engagement. I just want to check. Okay. we were talking about seeking, and that whether seeking moral knowledge would actually increase the chance that you'll find moral knowledge, right? This
Yeah.
is a premise that I absolutely need, because otherwise, seeking knowledge is not going to have positive, expected, objective goodness, right? That's yeah. I want to say, generally speaking, what is the case with philosophical knowledge is that we, like, for example, like, let's say we're a moral skeptic, right? But the majority of philosophers are moral realists, right? Actually, probably the majority of people on Earth, because the majority of people on Earth are religious, right? So, but let's talk about philosophers. Then, for example, we could increase our chance of finding moral knowledge, finding knowledge of what the objective moral facts are, through evaluating arguments that philosophers have given for finding moral knowledge, right?
Why? Why should I accept that?
So okay,
I mean,
yeah.
I
So
feel
what
like I just gave some reason. So I just explained, right, why I
Mhm.
am am skeptical of this, and that actually no, there's all these things, there's all these cases where seeking something is exactly the wrong thing to do, right? Like
Yes,
that's not a good way of trying to get it. So
yes.
and I don't. I mean, given that I'm a moral skeptic, I don't know what morality is like, what these moral facts are.
Hmm.
I'm just not sure whether morality is like this or I'm not sure which kind of class of things morality falls into. Um,
Yeah.
so why would I assume that the way that philosophers are approaching this is the way to find moral knowledge?
Um, it's like not. You don't have to assume anything, right? All I'm gonna need eventually from you is that you have like a 51% credence, right? In that seeking increases the chance,
Okay, but
right?
I don't.
Um,
I have a
yeah,
completely
sure.
vague credence. I-
Yes, I know.
yeah.
But what I want to argue is say, um, there are many people who have said that they have come to acquire more knowledge through all sorts of non-conventional means, right? So once we accepted the evolutionary debunking argument, right, we said, well, conventional means through which to get moral knowledge are unreliable. Things like ways like moral intuition, right? But we said also it is possible to acquire moral knowledge, right? Um, I want to argue, well, there are many arguments, right, for objective goodness. In like many people argue that or say that they have gotten moral knowledge through evaluating some philosophical arguments, right? Let's
Okay.
say
Yeah.
Hume's ontological argument or whatever, right? Or whatever. Um, or we could say many people, like another way one could seek moral knowledge would be through trying out religious practices, right? Because many people claim to have gotten moral knowledge by praying, right? If you've never prayed to whatever god, might be worth trying out. I don't know, right? But like it might be worth trying out, um, to as a way to seek moral knowledge, because many other people have claimed to find moral knowledge through it. Um, or one could maybe do some kind of like spiritual thing where one could like acquire like moral knowledge through, I don't know, becoming enlightened or something, right? Like some traditions in some traditions think that that morality is part of enlightenment, right? Like that moral knowledge is part of what it means to be enlightened or whatever. Especially like more traditional Buddhists. These are kind of like three ways through maybe like the three standard ways to get knowledge, like through a priori reasoning, philosophy, through divine revelation, by praying, right, or through experience, right, empirical, by like meditating for a long time, and then I'm not sure how it works, right, but all you need is that these are ways that people generally take themselves to have acquired through non-conventional means moral knowledge. That's kind of the appeal I want to do to increase your credence. What do you think? Has your credence increased?
No, I don't know what that. I mean, I'm just. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm really confused about what the argument is. So the claim is that there's lots of people who have claimed that they have acquired moral knowledge through
Mm-hmm.
these various means. So some through
Yes.
intuition, some through praying, some through spiritual enlightenment, etc. Right?
Yes.
Okay, but okay, and like people can. I mean,
Well,
people
like,
say all sorts of things. I'm just not sure. Like, and also, how does this? So I just explained. So I feel like I just gave an argument about. Well, it wasn't really. Maybe it's not. You know, I mean, look, I'm not. So I'm saying that I'm not sure that seeking moral knowledge is the right way to go about it. So forget about how you go about seeking it. The very idea that
yes.
in order to acquire moral knowledge, you should seek moral knowledge. I'm not sure about that
Yes.
because of cases like,
Okay.
say, happiness, where seeking happiness tends to interfere with your ability to get it, or cases like a Zen Kensho experience, where attempting to get a Kensho experience will is exactly the thing you want to do not to get it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, well, maybe moral knowledge is like that. And now what you've said is, well, look, there's all of these people who are seeking moral knowledge and claim to have found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how does and like, I mean,
Okay. So maybe we should stay. Maybe what
I'm
I'm.
not claiming that it's impossible that seeking moral knowledge
Yeah.
will allow you to get more. I'm just not
Yeah.
sure. And the fact
Yeah.
that there are
Yeah.
people who do claim to seek and find doesn't really, yeah, that doesn't move me.
Yeah. No. It's interesting that you
Especially because
that this
obviously
is a.
I disagree with them, right? I mean, I'm an
Mm-hmm.
anti-realist, so they claim to have sought moral knowledge and found it, but I'm going to say,
Yeah.
well, they haven't found it because there
Yeah.
is none to find.
Yes. Yes. Um.
So actually, all of
Okay.
these
But
methods of seeking moral knowledge are, in fact, you know what? Maybe there's a kind of pessimistic induction here because I'm like, well, look, you've just given me all of these methods of seeking moral knowledge. They all fail. So it looks like,
yeah.
by induction, if I was the kind of person who was inclined to make inductive arguments, then maybe I would do that. I'm being tongue in cheek here, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to
Yes.
say that what you have just explained to me are cases of failure. So,
Yes.
yeah.
But like in some sense, um, we're more skeptics, right? Um, we don't actually know, right? It could be the case that 99% of these people are delusional, right? But that actually some kind of weird Hindu god exists, really exists, right? And gives people moral knowledge sometimes,
Hmm.
right? Through divine revelation. Um, and also, like, we should say the same thing about very, very niche meta-ethical positions. Maybe you've like really looked through all the meta-ethical literature and arguments for realism, and have found that all of them are unconvincing. Then I guess you've sought your moral realism, like you sought moral knowledge in that way, right? But probably like, for most people, that's not the case. Most people, most moral skeptics who haven't thought through all these cases, all these arguments, should do that. Um, but okay, like I want to say, like you said, not seeking moral knowledge. I don't have a higher credence in that seeking moral knowledge has a that seeking it will increase my chance of finding it, and I do need this premise. So what I want to ask you is like you gave these examples of happiness and kensho. However, like with all those are not knowledge, right? Um, with all knowledge, it seems to be the case that seeking knowledge in general increases your chance of finding it, right? Because what you're going to do is look through evidence, right? And you're going to be like, okay, well, there's some reason to believe that this is more likely to be true, right? And then you're going to, yeah, form a belief on basis on that, and maybe you get knowledge that way, right? But the general idea, I think, here behind this is basing your beliefs upon evidence increases your chance to get knowledge, right? And evidence you're going to find by seeking it, right? So these seem very plausible premises to me. Do you disagree?
Yeah, I just don't see any reason to assume that morality works that way.
But like all other knowledge does work that way.
I mean, I'm not sure that it does. So it might be the case. I can imagine that there are going to be lots of cases where um, like, okay, what about something like introspection, right? Seeking knowledge of one's own
Yeah.
mind. Maybe it seems to me totally plausible that that's going to lead you to that's going to like lead you in the wrong direction. That like that's going to just sort of lead to an increasing proliferation of like false beliefs about how your own mind works. It's possible that you know by like seeking knowledge of one's own mind, you end up kind of constructing theories about your own mind and getting like trapped in them. And like, does this make sense? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I disagree. I think if you really try to find out what your mind is like, right, and try to base yourself on good evidence, right?
Wait.
And
Yeah, but that's the key point, right? Like, so you'd have to, it would have to be the case that what you're doing when you're doing this seeking about what your mind is like, that you're basing it on
mhm,
the good evidence. And so so the suggestion is that let's say that I decide to seek knowledge of my own mind, and then I go
yes,
for something like introspection. But maybe introspection is just
mhm,
like completely misleading. And that's not what you would initially expect, right? Like you might, so initially we'd expect that introspection would be, that's sort of kind of commonsensically like, well, yeah, if I want to figure out the way my own mind is, then I just sort of look into my own mind. But there are
uh-huh,
philosophers who are deeply skeptical about this, and I think they've got some convincing arguments. So
mhm,
let's say that they're right. Well, in that case, there's going to be a lot of people who are seeking knowledge of their own mind, and they're doing it in a very careful and thoughtful way, but they're just completely misled, and they're actually like going in the wrong direction. Like they're just they're maximizing false beliefs about their own mind.
sure,
So you have to. It's not good enough to just seek. You would have to seek in exactly the right way.
yeah, okay, I agree. Um, Maybe I could try another argument, see if this convinces you. Um, when we seek more knowledge, um, we um, what I'm gonna try to say is we're gonna try to have a higher variation of experiences. We're gonna try to like maybe do weird stuff, just like
Why? Why would
do
why would I do
a lot
that?
of meditation. Well,
Maybe,
no, you don't have to, right? But I'm saying this is what seeking would look like,
but
right?
no, not necessarily.
Um,
I mean, I might think that there's very specific things you have to do in order to acquire knowledge, and that actually, if you do other things, that can mislead you. So, um, I mean, this is so yeah, like it might be the case that in order to seek moral knowledge, the way to do that would just be to like focus on your intuitions and maybe just a specific class of intuitions and then think through
mm-hmm.
arguments that are based on intuitions in the kind of way that philosophers do. And then
Yeah,
I might think that that's the way to do it, and that if you try to do these other things like pray or meditate or whatever, then that's again just going to send you off in the wrong direction. So if I have that sort of view, then
Um,
I won't try to maximize my experiences. I'll try to narrow them down significantly.
yes. Um, I need some kind of argument that, um, and I think the moral skeptic should accept this type of argument that we don't have any like um, good reason a priori to believe that there's only one specific type of action that is like most likely to result in moral knowledge. So what I'm going to assume is that you actually are kind of like skeptical with regard to it, right? You're going to say, well, the chance that, and I think you would agree with this, the chance that like praying is gonna, um, or like doing some religious ritual, I don't know, burning some food for some Hindu god or whatever, um, is going to give you more knowledge. Is that the credence that you have in that is going to be about equal than the credence that you're going to have in um, like that trying to reach some enlightenment or that trying to evaluate moral arguments, um, like realist arguments. Like I'm gonna assume that your credence is going to be about the same, and I think you would agree with this, right?
I would say that my credence in both cases is just completely vague.
Yes,
Mm.
sure, that's fine, right? But that's fine. Um, what we're done get what are done getting what we're then gonna have is a um idea of seeking moral knowledge as having great variation, um, because what your life currently is mainly focusing on philosophy, right? You
Well,
probably
wait,
do a lot
wait,
of other
wait.
things as well in life.
But I mean, I don't agree with that step because we can also ask. Um, so so seeking moral knowledge, right? It is it. What's like a priori? Should I expect that the way to do that is to pursue some really narrow, really specific path, or to pursue lots of different options and take a kind of broad approach? In that case, my credence is also just completely vague for both options. I don't know.
Um, so what it seems to me is that your credence in you are gonna have to need specific credences, right? Non-vague credences for this idea that I'm gonna focus on.
I don't need non-vague credences. My credences are vague. I'm fine with vague credences. Yeah, I mean if you
Yes, no, no. Oh wait. I'm saying you would need non-vague credences
yeah.
if you wanted to say that you that like specifically focusing on like praying only to one god, right? Or only evaluating like Michael Humer's arguments or whatever, right? Or like um then you need very specific credences, right? If your credences are vague, right, then it's not gonna push you in one direction, right? Seeking moral knowledge, if your credences are vague, which is gonna be for most people, right? It's gonna be, well, I'm gonna do some like um bringing offers to some kind of god. I'm gonna do some
Yeah, but that
philosophy. I'm gonna do some
but
meditating,
that
right?
is a direction. This is the so when you say, well, I'm going to do all of these different things, that is a direct like it's not the case. So I think the disagreement here is you, you, I'm not. So I don't take it that like there's a sort of neutral option. It seems like what you're suggesting is that this this option of like just trying prayer, trying intuition, trying the evaluation of philosophical arguments, like that's the neutral thing. So if your credences are vague, then that's what you'll do. But I disagree with that. It seems to me that
Okay.
pursuing lots of different options, that is itself an option, right? Like, so you can either be really narrow or you can be broad. If my credences are just vague, then I just won't know what to do. And so maybe I'll pursue some really narrow, specific sort of path, or maybe I'll go really broad and try lots of things. But it would be a stab in the dark either way.
Hmm. Okay. I think there's a general idea that um, maybe there's some idea of like um, if you like try to seek knowledge and you've looked in one place, um, then it might be like and you've really tried to figure it out in that place, then it's gonna be productive to move on to another place to seek there, right? Um, if you're gonna accept something like that, then I feel like um, even like no matter what strategy you are, right? Let's say you first want to evaluate all of Michael Humer's arguments free, try to do anything else, right? Or only try like a specific type of meditation. I don't know. Like there might like I'm postulating like now these three variations, right? But you might think like that, I don't know, they're objective aesthetic values, right? And that like playing music might give you some kind of higher credence in that you'll um, you'll encounter like you'll get knowledge of the objective aesthetic values, right? Or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like their credences could be um, quite wild, and I think they maybe should be. But if you get this idea, if you accept this idea that you're gonna like move on, right? You're gonna try something, then move on to the other thing, and try something, move on to the other thing. If we accept this idea of like um, then you'll eventually end up because you still got some decent amount of time left in your life. I hope. Then you're going to evaluate a lot of things, right? Which means that you're going to have high variation of experiences. Would you accept that?
If that's what you decide to do, then yeah, that's what you'll get.
Um, yes. If you want to effectively seek moral knowledge, right, which is the type of action that I'm arguing one has desired independent reasons for, then part of effective seeking is not just like evaluating the same argument over and over again, right? It's going to be
Well, no, I don't agree with
evaluate
that.
an argument. Oh, you think that effectively seeking is like there's really no reason to presuppose that the argument that you've just evaluated like you don't think your credence is higher in that like that some other argument that you've never thought about is going to give you moral knowledge than
No,
the argument that you've already evaluated 10 times?
no,
No?
no. Well, I mean, I often change my
Oh,
mind about arguments. Like I often will read an argument and then see new things in it. It happens all the time.
yeah. Yes. I mean, that happens all the time, but even if it happens all the time, um, like after you've evaluated an argument for 10 times, the chance that you'll change your mind about it by evaluating it another time is quite low, I think, right? Like
I mean,
your credence in it something some other evaluation or some other argument
I
for
have to say, I mean,
let's say
it's
more
not something
realism.
I've ever done, but like I can imagine somebody sort of doing this. This is almost like a kind of meditative thing, right? Where
Yeah,
somebody like takes an argument and then just reads exactly the same argument like every day for a
yeah,
year or something. And I
yeah,
don't know, maybe if you do that, interesting changes happen. Um, I know that it's certainly true that when I look at arguments um, that I've seen many many times before, and I kind of go back to them and evaluate them again and again, I often get new things from them, and I'm not really sure how far that goes or what the limits of that are. It seems totally plausible to me that okay, Let's say that I was told that in 1 year I'm going to convert to moral realism, and then I was asked
Yes.
to predict, like, how does that happen? Um,
Yeah.
it is just as plausible to me that this happens through me literally just reading the same argument over and over and over again every day for a year. That actually strikes me as a totally plausible way that I could become a moral realist.
Um, Never mind where it would cause you to be more realist, but how about like that it will cause you to acquire more knowledge, right? Because you might like
Well, okay, but
hypnotize yourself
that's what it
into
is,
more
right? Like,
realism. Okay.
I'm assuming that, like, this is an argument to, so the scenario we're imagining here is I become a moral realist, and then once I'm a moral realist, I'm obviously going to take it that I know the moral facts, right? So I'm going to learn
Yeah.
that it is a fact that slavery is wrong, right?
Yes.
What I'm suggesting is, yeah, I think that it's plausible to me that that could happen through me just reading the same argument over and over and over again every day for a year. I think that's totally plausible.
Um. Okay. Um. Just to clarify, um, what you mean by that is that reading the same argument over and over and over for a year um, has the same chance of causing you to get moral knowledge. And you have no higher credence in that if you would spend this year reading 100 like different
Hmm.
arguments for moralism,
Yeah.
um, like let's say which you haven't considered yet, right?
Hmm.
We've built some AI, right? And this is going to produce arguments for moralism, right?
Yeah.
Um, um, do you think that reading the same argument has equal chance um, than reading like 100 different arguments?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, when I say
Okay.
equal chance, what I mean is that my, like, the credences are vague. So it's not like I'm saying, well, I'm 0.6 on this and zero. No, I mean, I just have vague credence in both. Um, but I certainly
Sure,
wouldn't
you
say that
have
one is
vagueness in
more
both.
likely than the other.
Okay, can you repeat the last thing you said?
I said I certainly wouldn't say that one is more likely than the other.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's very strange.
I don't think it is
It's
that
okay though.
strange. I'm not sure. I'm not sure
Um,
about. I agree with that. I don't. I think that. Okay, let me try to make it a bit more intuitive, right? So if you give me
okay.
100 arguments, then I feel like those arguments are going to be. I'm going to know them in a way that is much more shallow. If you think about, like, take something like outside the context of moral realism, like arguments for God, right? There's loads and loads and loads of
Yeah.
arguments for God, and I could sit down and go through all of these arguments for God. And of course, look, I mean, I'm more on the atheist agnostic sort of side, right? So I'm not convinced by any of these arguments, and it's going to be very easy when you first encounter any argument to poke holes in it, right? But then, if you
Mm-hmm.
just are like, if you sit down with an argument and you just think about it really, really deeply. You think about it over and over again. You try to get yourself into the frame of mind of the person who's written this argument. I mean, yeah, maybe you can still poke holes in it, but, like, maybe that's going to, I don't know, nudge you into sort of. It's about, like, getting into the perspective of the person who's written this argument, and maybe once you do that, you can come to see its force. I mean, so just as a purely psychological matter, this doesn't strike me as that strange. It seems like that's something that could, that could be a plausible way of convincing someone.
Hmm. Um, Maybe if you have this thing of like, if you evaluated the arguments, um, in the 100 arguments in 1 year in a
Hmm.
very shallow way, right? Um, then maybe like I'm still like kind of like it's like I don't know, but maybe. Um, but like, if you start developing this argument like um non-shadowly, right? For every argument, you get 3.5 days, right? You should be able to evaluate an argument pretty deeply and honestly. Generally speaking, when you have 3.5 days to just do that, right? And you're a smart person, right? So you can do that. So like this doesn't seem intuitive to me at all that if we say that you don't um, shallowly evaluate these arguments, that one shouldn't have a higher credence in that evaluating the 100 different arguments is going to be more likely to cause one to have moral knowledge than the one argument every day over
So
and over again.
okay, so let's say we say 3.5 days for each, right? You can get pretty deep
Yes.
into an argument in 3.5 days, but you can get even
Yes.
deeper into it after a whole damn year, you know? Like, the point. So, I'm not saying that, sorry, when I say shallow, right, I should just say, like, relatively shallow. Okay, it's. If
Okay.
you're evaluating 100 arguments in a year, then you're going to spend less time on them than if you're evaluating one,
Yes.
like if you're just
Yes.
thinking about one argument
Yes.
for a whole year, you know.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, it just like maybe this is unusual, but look, I can only speak for myself. Um,
Yes. No. That's fine.
if I was told that I'm like it's the oracle comes down and says, Kane, you're going to be a moral realist in a year. Do you think it happens as a result of evaluating 100 arguments or evaluating just one argument really deeply? I
Mm-hmm.
honestly don't know. I would have no idea. It would
Huh.
just be a guess.
For me, it would be my intuition is it is indeed true that you could get deeper in evaluating argument um, for a whole year, right? Um, Instead of doing it in 3.5 days, right? Um, However, you're getting diminishing returns, right? At some point, and that's probably like already like 3.5 days is a pretty long time to review a moral realism argument. Often, right? Like probably like after like reading the paper for like the fourth time, and thinking through it, you're gonna already have like pretty diminished
I don't
results.
know. I mean, some
Um,
people write whole PhDs on single arguments, so maybe, maybe not.
yeah, but um, um, when people write a PhD on an argument, it's they're they're probably like evaluating a lot of different things, right? Um, like you're not writing a PhD argument by just like evaluating the same argument over and over and over again, right? What you want to do is um, uh, like vary. You're gonna get diminishing results. You you really want to disagree with that, like
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree
with
with
this
that
idea?
because I think that what's being overlooked here is that there's like so I think the way that you're looking at this is in terms of kind of epistemic reasons or something like, well, um, if I've evaluated an argument for 3.5 days, then the like whatever reasons, epistemic reasons that argument provides for the conclusion, right? I'm just going to know that stuff. Like and there's just nothing further to uncover there. But so,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, I'm on the skeptical side when it comes to epistemic reasons, but I'll just grant that. But there's still this like element of just psychology. There actually is, I think, some evidence that mere exposure to a particular idea, like if you're just exposed to an idea over and over again, it becomes more
Yeah.
plausible.
Yeah.
And I know this was like one of the objections that was raised to media companies around the time of Donald Trump, because the argument was that even though the coverage is negative, mere
Yeah.
exposure to this person will make him seem more plausible. So if you think that there's some sort of psychological tendency, there's some sort of mere exposure effect going on, then actually, yeah, evaluating the same argument every single day in exactly the same way each day might make it more convincing. Not because it's going to give you some further epistemic reason, but just because it will change your psychology in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is where I find it like kind of difficult because I agree with you. There's like a potential in the case of your psychology that like a probability in the case of your psychology that evaluating it will cause you to believe it, right? Because you can like kind of hypnotize yourself into believing it or something like that. But when we're talking about knowledge, right? We want justification, right? And
Oh dear. we, do we...
okay, you don't like that, but generally speaking, um, you have weird views, Kane. It makes it hard to talk to you. Okay, but it's fine. Let's say,
But look, if hang
unless
on
you
though, I
wanna,
mean, but seriously, right? If we're gonna go, okay, if we're gonna get on board with this if we're getting on the justification train, you know, now, now earlier, you know, you were talking about acquiring moral knowledge through like prayer and meditation, or like that's
yes,
not gonna give you, you know, like justification in the sense that philosophers want it.
why
I mean,
not?
it's not. Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe it will, but like at that point, we're you know, we're not talking about like propositional reasons or something like that, right?
No, no, no. I agree, but like you can still have justification.
Okay, so well,
Um,
hang on then. I mean, why shouldn't? I mean, okay, well, if we want to do that, well, why shouldn't this psychological change that's brought about through the mere exposure effect count as justifying in the same sense?
um, I mean, like I'm not saying that it can't, right? Just that it has lower probability, right? Um, I'm saying that um, justification, um, like this argument or evaluating it in this like way, right? Um, is gonna get like there's only a certain chance that this argument is right, right? Like even if there are moral facts, right? There could still be um, arguments which um, there could still be arguments that are like wrong, right? Um, and the chance that you'll come across a right argument, right? The type of argument that could give you knowledge, right? Is higher if you evaluate a lot of arguments. It seems like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe you
Um,
don't need the argument to be right in order for it to deliver justification and knowledge. I mean, so like if we think of something like, you know, meditation or prayer, maybe the way that that
uh-huh.
delivers justification is that it prompts a special kind of experience, like a religious
Yeah,
experience. Um,
sure.
well, maybe the same sort. So maybe you just give the same kind of account of what's going on with the argument. So the argument, let's say, is it's invalid. The premises are unsound. But when you engage with this argument over and over and over again, this just prompts a kind of experience in you, which counts as recognition of certain moral facts. I mean, I don't know. That obviously to me that sounds a bit nuts, right? But like
Yes.
it all sounds a bit nuts when it comes to moral realism. So
Okay. Yeah, no, it is a bit nuts. I agree. Um, I think there's something in this thing that you're saying is, um, which I like, which is we have no a priori reason to believe that um, some type of meditation, right, um, is not going to give you justification, rather than some kind of whatever, like some kind of argument. Right? However, you seem to be saying that maybe I misunderstood you, but correct me if I misunderstood you. That meditation, for example, could give you like even if the premises are invalid. So the analogy would be even if like the meditation technique is like not the type of technique that could give you justification, not the type of technique that leads to, let's say, enlightenment or whatever, then like it seems to me that what you're kind of saying is that this argument could be invalid, and its premises unsound, but still such an argument, evaluating it 100 times, has a higher chance of giving you moral knowledge, even though it's invalid and unsound, than evaluating 100 sound, valid arguments.
No, I'm not saying it has a higher chance. I'm just saying I don't know what the chance is. Like, so it's in both cases.
Yeah.
My credence is completely vague, but I'm not. So I would not claim that either of those options has a higher chance than the other.
Yeah. I don't know. That is very strange to me. It seems to me very obvious that evaluating different arguments has a higher chance of giving me moral knowledge than evaluating the same argument over and over and over again.
Okay.
That's
Well,
why
I guess if you want to,
it's kind of also like how we. That's also how we do the conversation, for example, right? Like, I try to pull some arguments, right? You're like, nah. Like, would it be kind of weird if I just like kept trying to like do the same argument and over? Like, then you would be
why
like,
not? I mean, nobody's ever tried that before. Maybe it would be a better option, right? So I've spoken to lots of
okay,
people
we could
about
just
this.
loop for
They
hours.
they throw all
No,
sorts of different arguments at me, and I'm like, nah. But like, maybe if you just sat there and was like, right, I'm just going to give you the same argument over and over again, and until you accept it.
okay.
Maybe that would work.
Yes, I think. Okay. You.
I mean, look, I can certainly agree that. So for somebody in your position, with the kind of credences and expectations that you have, and the sort of desires that you have, totally makes sense for you to seek objective moral knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's important to say that it doesn't depend on my desires, right? Because, yes, because we talked about this subjectively expected goodness as giving you a desire independent reason.
Well, it does depend on your desires though, because we brought this up but kind of moved past it. You said that this only works if we acknowledge so in order for your argument to work, based on what you said earlier, I have to acknowledge that if I come to have a belief about what the objective moral facts are, that will have some sort of motivational force on me. Whereas for me, I am very confident it would have no motivational force whatsoever. I wouldn't care if I found out that there are objective moral facts. I just wouldn't care about them. So
yes,
I think that is your argument is dependent on desires. Because I mean it's dependent on whether or not I desire to conform to the objective moral facts.
Yes. So indeed, my argument does rely on once you've acquired moral knowledge, that because we're talking about subjective expectations, right? You now need to have a higher credence in that you'll do more goodness than badness, given that you've got moral knowledge, right? This is the argument. You have to have a higher credence in that you'll like not like once you've come to know what is objectively wrong, right? That you like start doing that as much as possible, right? Because if you're that type of person, then it's actually going to be negative. It's going to have negative, subjectively expected, objective goodness to seek knowledge, because once you found it, you're gonna start like doing bad stuff. Which, then don't seek moral knowledge. But most people who are not as have Kane has a very unique credence function, I think. I think you would agree with it as well. Most people would say that once they found out what would be objectively good, they would say, okay, that means I have some motivation to align myself with it. Generally speaking, like internalism, this idea that if someone judges this, if someone judges some action to be wrong, they at least have some motivation, if they genuinely asserted it to be the case, to refrain or to do this action, right? If someone says stealing is wrong, and then like they steal like the next second, we would doubt whether this judgment is like genuine. It seems like they're kind of like they're saying like whatever. Like most like people believe that murder is wrong, but they're a bunch of indoctrinated nerds or normies or whatever, and I'm just gonna steal anyway. But yeah, then they don't generally believe that stealing is wrong. But generally people believe that stealing is wrong. Motivates them to at least defensively not steal. But you might be, I think you probably are, might disagree, might say that this doesn't hold for you.
Right.
Would you say, I'm going to try this, would you say that, because what I technically need is for you to have a higher credence in that you'll become, like, at least do more goodness than badness, right? Even if, like, you found out that utilitarianism is true, right? And this would cause you to give, like, 1 cent towards charity, right? Mm-hmm. And for the rest, you're going to live your life exactly the same, right? This would be enough to make you a moral realist. But like what I'm trying to argue, maybe this is like, oh, then you have to do like some specific action, like go somewhere, like on the internet, and I don't know, donate a cent. That might be kind of weird or embarrassing, but what I'm trying to convey is, do you have a higher credence in that you'll be motivated to be a bit more moral than upon acquiring moral knowledge?
No.
Then that you'll be like less moral.
No.
As opposed to like if you wouldn't have gotten that knowledge at all.
No.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think about?
I actually think, funnily enough, so what I am inclined to say, the official position is that if I came to believe that there are objective moral facts, it wouldn't make any difference. But if I'm being completely honest, I think that if I came to believe that there are objective moral facts, I would occasionally intentionally attempt to violate those facts. Like I would intentionally try to act in ways that are objectively bad.
Okay.
I just fundamentally don't like being told what to do, and I don't really care whether it's other people telling me what to do, or whether it's the universe or the platonic forms telling me what to do. There's just a bit of me that's like, screw you. I'm gonna do the opposite of what you're telling me. So there'd be a little. There's more of that in me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe this actually means that you, as one of the only people on Earth, because everyone else is going to be watching this video is no fucking. It's a very weird credence function.
Oh, I don't know about that. I know a few people like me.
Yes, I know. There are a few people like you. People like you watch these videos. But I don't know. It's such a weird idea to say that seeking moral knowledge doesn't increase the chance of fighting it. That's wild to me. I love you though, but that's wild.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I've had a lot of arguments with people discussing this argument. I've never had ever like this is just like I've never had anyone try to problemize this premise. We generally get stuck on other stuff. But I wanted to say, let's say you're a bit of a rebel. Once you have acquired moral knowledge, right? You're actually going to be like occasionally like violating the moral knowledge, right? So upon acquiring moral knowledge, so like seeking moral knowledge, given this premise, would make you kind of like would be bad, right? It would be we have a subjectively expected objective goodness would be negative for you because you're going to be a rebel. Like maybe this actually means that you like have a reason, right? To not seek moral knowledge. You have a stance, now you have a desire independent reason not to seek moral knowledge because it's going to be CO bad. CO bad means subjectively expected, objectively bad. Because once you've acquired it, you're gonna be a rebel.
Oh, I see. And then so the fact that
So
I'm
then you're
actually
still a moral realist, right? Because you accept
the
such
fact that I'm
such
not that
reason.
I'm that I'm not seeking it obviously is very much in line with that. So, you know, not only am I apparently a moral realist now, but I'm already kind of acting in the way that a moral realist should.
Yes, yes,
Right.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay, that was all I wanted to accomplish. Okay, I wanna for everyone who doesn't have a strange, to say the least, credence function, I would like to kind of close the argument, like run through it once more, and then kind of say, so that people can have kind of an idea of what we did, and then afterwards, what we can do is, if you're up for it, Kane, if you like wanna take a quick break or whatever, that's fine as well if you want to. But we can, like, we have people in the. There's still people in the audience who maybe want to ask questions or talk to us about moral realism. We can talk to them. But what do you feel like? Would this be a good idea for the next coming time?
Yeah, I don't really mind. I mean, I've got a bit of time.
Okay, sounds good. Then I'm gonna run one more time through my argument. Then all of you guys in the audience can think about how you're gonna in different ways celebrate Kane's be moral realism, or ask questions.
Well, while you do that, I'm just going to go to the toilet.
Yeah, sounds good. And think about questions, and then I'll run through my argument once more. Okay, so this is the argument. This is the argument for the objective purpose of your life. Dear friends, do you hear me? You've got something to do with this life. It's not all meaningless, even though the skeptical arguments are incredibly convincing. I know, my friend, I know. They are very convincing. We should be moral skeptics. But even though we should be moral skeptics, there is something to do in our lives. Because you don't need to stay a moral skeptic. You should be skeptical about skepticism. You'd say, well, even though I'm morally ignorant right now, sometime in the future, I might not be, right? I haven't tried out all these actions, right, that could cause me to do moral knowledge. Furthermore, these actions are really fun as well, right? Like, it's really fun to be like standing in the middle of a forest and be like, okay, I've never talked to Krishna, right? Some Hindu god. And I'm really like, okay, dear Krishna, reveal yourself to me. I am open to receiving moral knowledge. And then, who knows, right? Like, if you're a true skeptic, if you truly internalize skepticism, right, then maybe, who knows? Maybe you get this moral knowledge, right? Who knows? Okay. Or like playing like music, right? I like playing music, right? I am one of the reasons that I play my music is because I have a desired independent reason to play music, right? Because maybe playing my music confronts me with the objective moral facts. Oh well, there would be objective aesthetic facts, right? Or like, I mean, all of you guys are in a philosophy Discord, right? Doing philosophy is a lot of fun. Definitely meta-ethics is the most fun. So, like, I mean, evaluating meta-ethics, this is it's a cool idea. So yeah. Or meditation. I would highly recommend meditation. A lot of fun in meditation. But we don't do it for fun, or like we might do it partly for fun, but partly because we have a decided independent reason to. So, dear skeptics, you can stay skeptics, but you've got something to do in this life. You've got a calling, all of you, to seek moral knowledge through whatever means you think that this has, through whatever means you think moral knowledge has a higher chance of you being able to find it, unless you have some incredibly weird and strange credence function. It seems like you've got something to do in this life. So yeah, let's do it. Let's seek moral knowledge.